A kank?
Kank. Kank.
This is so weird. Hello, my name is Steve Conley. Welcome to Pencil to Pencil, your Wednesday night podcast. He says it every week, livecast, and I for some reason, I don't know what I'm doing. Am I daydreaming? Am I still reading Leon?
Why are we here? What's here?
But we are your Wednesday night live stream where you have two live cartoonists. JAMAR, our leader, is on assignment. Is he off planet? I can't say.
Well, I was thinking, it's funny. He's not here. Trump's in China.
Yeah,
I did that. Maybe they're talking about Johns in China. Need a John expert in China,
That is, I mean, why not? Why not? My name is Steve. JAMAR will be here next week, so don't worry. We're going to try to make sure that the wheels don't come off this thing. But my name is Steve Conley. I am your second host, proud member of the National Cartoon Society. I don't draw Leon, protector of the playground. Cop it, why don't you? Go Birds. Okay, enough. I don't even own a bucket hat. But my name is Steve Conley. I draw The Middle Age, your 37th favorite webcomic. You can find on Webtoons tab as Go Comics. I also make TTRPG stuff. So if you want to play the Dungeons and the Dragons, you can check out my books at steveconley.com. But I would be remiss if I didn't introduce the Tower Power of the Man of the Hour. Too sweet to be sour. Physician, scientist, searching for a way to tap into the hidden strength that all cartoonists have. The maestro, Mr. Mike Manley.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Manley, as you well know, and I have probably drawn your childhood. So we decided to go on this week, despite the fact that our dear JAMAR is off-site doing mysterious things. If we told you when he came back, he'd have to eliminate you. But we figured the podcast has got to go on anyway, no matter what. And to make it easy, I just draw something tonight because people seem to really like watching me draw or Steve draw or JAMAR draw. So we figured we'd do that tonight. And it's sort of like a wingman down version of Jaw and Draw. And so I think I have a commission that's due, so I figured I'd kind of kill two birds with one stone and work on my commission tonight while we answered your questions from our well-stocked chat full of regulars and pros who love to mingle.
But you have some news, Mike. You have some news about by popular demand. There is now a pencil to pencil Patreon. The Mike Pencil to Pencil Patreon is now live. Was it you launched it just this week, just a few days ago?
No, I actually launched it 6 years ago and just never made it live. Yeah. I launched it basically when we started the podcast. But then I wasn't really sure whether it would be worth doing the Patreon thing. I know some people have really super successful Patreons, and other people get like dribbles. And so I sort of loaded it up several years ago, and then I just never made it live. But I thought, well, maybe it's time to make it live. And so there's several tiers on there, but the basic tier is $3 a month. You can ship Jamar, Steve, and me $1 a month to support the podcast, right? That's cheaper than buying a comic book, right? That's like dime box comics, right? So I think it's would be really appreciated and really worth our time even more if we could see a demonstration from you, dear viewers, of your enjoyment and love of the podcast. And so I try to make it basically as low and as affordable as possible. Because as Steve and I were talking about right before we went on, this is a pretty stressful year for a lot of people.
Sure.
A lot of people, personal friends of ours, family members. My brother just filled up his truck in California today. $150 to fill the 30-gallon tank.
Oof.
On his truck. Yeah. So I'm well aware of the fact that every single cartoonist, every single artist I know working is pretty much struggling and is really being affected. And I mean, it's been that way for a couple of years, but it's really this year now, after the fallout from the gas prices. And I mean, even during COVID, people were suffering, you know. So
Sure.
it's good. But this also might be a good time for you to mention your situation, Steve.
Yeah, well, some folks might know I missed an episode of Pencil back in April. I was in the hospital for a kidney stone, one of these ones that's just sort of like it just I don't know, like a a pearl. I grew a pearl, and it was gigantic, and the only way to destroy it was the power of sound, and so it's a OR procedure. They got to wheel you in there, knock you out. It's a whole team. You know, first time I've ever been in surgery, and
Really?
Oh yeah, I've lived a very charmed life, and they knock you out and they basically hit you in your they hit you in the kidney 2,000 times with this like pulse sound waves, and it just shatters the stone and
not your kidney.
And you're right, exactly, but leaves you a bit sore and on painkillers. But because of that, I ended up being in the hospital for 3 days, and I just knew that this was gonna be, you know, in terms of insurance, this is called a catastrophic situation. So I just knew that it was going to blow past any kind of immediate coverage that my insurance gives me, passed onto my pocket to my maximum for the year. All the insurance stuff nobody wants to think about. So it blew past any kind of help. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad I had insurance. I could see the itemized bill that was like $70,000. Just the CT scan to tell me how big the kidney stone was 10 grand. But
yeah,
all that stuff gets knocked down. The what's called shockwave lithotripsy. That's the thing that breaks the thing up. That was $20,000. And I'm not surprised. It was an OR room full of people. It felt like the pre-op was all really mellow and chill, and they wheel you in. And the second you get in the OR, it's NASCAR. They're picking you up, putting you down, dropping things over, strapping you sideways, count back from 100. I go 99 and I'm out.
And it's cold, right? It's really cold.
Yes, it was, but it happened so fast. And but anyway, after that, it's just waiting to see the bill. And so now the biggest side effect of the procedure has hit me. And I got it this morning, and it said it was like 10 grand. And I'm like, I knew that's what it was going to be. It's going to be the maximum. At some point, there's probably around 11 grand or so is the maximum I can possibly pay. And then after that, I'm just going to have them, I don't know, replace all my limbs. I will be a bionic Steve by the
I know this all too well because I've had a couple surgeries in the last year. I had that bypass 2 years ago. And the funny thing is, because that was scheduled, they're like, do you want to pay for it now? like even before I went in, it's like, you want to pay for, they gave you like a price, right? You want to pay for it now? So yeah, I'm still paying off my my bypass.
Oof.
You know,
and so when I was in the ER, I asked my lady to take a photograph because I said, because I was kind of the morphine was in my system. I was like, take a photo for the GoFundMe. And so today I launched a GoFundMe. When I got that bill, I launched a GoFundMe. A lot of folks, including Mike, have been very kind and supported it. And it's gonna like the morphine, it won't solve the problem entirely, but it'll take the edge off. And I can't thank you enough.
Well, hopefully you go well past your goal. But we had Steve Root on like a little bit over a month ago. He had his GoFundMe. I've seen several other artists and cartoonists in very similar circumstances, like I said, that I've contributed to over the last year. I mean, people losing apartments, people losing houses, other people with sick pets, other people, with sick relatives. I mean, I heard this statistic that basically most of the people in the United States are one appliance or dental emergency away from being in hock. Like your refrigerator goes out, or your washer, or your dryer, or the clutch Central on your car or something, and then
air conditioning. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Most people don't have that extra $400.
Right.
So yeah,
But if they have $3.
If they have $3, right? That's right. Let your tooth rot. Pencil to pencil is important. What's a little pain? We're here every week for you. You just, you take some of that fake dental stuff and rub it on your gum while you watch.
A little kneaded eraser.
Plug that hole in your tooth with a kneaded eraser.
So you talked about setting up the Patreon 6 years ago and just launching it. Mr. Paul Pate on the YouTube. You weren't 100% sold on this whole Patreon thing yet, Mike?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Huh.
Right? We won't know. Maybe people will just say, no, I'm not paying you nothing. I'm watching it for free, and I'm going to continue to watch it for free.
Right. And we have that URL will be fancier. I think that's just the kind of the placeholder initial URL. Eventually I'm sure we'll have an easier to remember one than that Leet Speak that we have down there.
Yeah, but that's the one that it gave me. I don't know because it says, share, and then you click the link and it spits out that gobbledygook.
Sure. But we'll figure out the prettier looking one than that. Mr. Paul Pate jumps in with insurance is nuts. We pay and then go to the doctor and pay a copay.
Yeah, my copay, my minimum copay this year, I think, is almost $8,000.
Right. So before they totally kick in, that's where you gotta.
Right. Yeah. So, but we should also mention that there's our buddy Steve Rude's Nexus Kickstarter is closing in on the end of its Patreon, its Kickstarter this week, I think.
Yep, it ends tomorrow night. So if you go to steverude.com/ThoonWorldAE, it will take you right to the Kickstarter. If you go to Kickstarter and type in Steve Rude or Nexus or Thoon World, THUNE, it will take you to his Kickstarter, and there's 24 hours left. And that's so far so good.
So go show Steve some love.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And I think
our previous episodes with him, especially the interview, that was really, really good.
Yeah. And so again, I think this is sort of where we are now. I see with the fallout, a lot of people in the animation business, a lot of people working in that industry they're sort of worse off than comics, because right. One of the things about animation is that you're sort of a gear. Animation's like a big factory, and you're like a gear somewhere in the system. But you don't own anything. right? So you could have been
Right.
the lead board person, the lead background person. You could have been a director. You don't own that.
Yeah.
So when the company goes, oh, we're shutting the door, we're laying everybody off. It's not like you can say, well, I can go take my Nexus, you know,
Right.
I can go take my Leon or my Middle Age and go do my own Kickstarter, do my own thing. You don't get anything.
Yeah, and that scrambling is so real right now. It's like, well, they've been doing the working in a great studio for 10 years, and now they're like, I guess I have to start a Kickstarter or a Patreon or a coffee. But comic fan who walks on YouTube, I am now a member of the Patreon. So, woohoo!
Woo! We appreciate that. I mean, again, I think we're sort of going to get in this economy where there's going to be a lot of people in the sort of the creative gig economy where we're going to be sharing, we're going to supporting each other. You know, if you had, it used to be back in the day, they used to say, I remember, that if you had 5,000 fans, like somebody like John Byrne or George Brett, people, if you had 5,000 fans, and if you could get your 5,000 fans to give you $1 a month, you can make a living.
Yeah.
Right. And if you give them $2 a month. So if you think about it, I mean, if you're a fan of Batman or you're a fan of, I don't know, Todd McFarlane or Jim Lee or whoever you're a fan of,
JAMAR NICHOLAS.
You go and you buy a comic book, you're spending what, $4 or $5 now to buy the average comic book. Pretty easy. You're willing to support the character, but are you willing to support the creators? And I think that's sort of where we're getting down to, where a lot of us are going to be sort of supporting each other. You know, like we're supporting Steve, maybe Steve supports us. You know, we support Jamar, and we support somebody else. I think that's where and the younger you are, the more that's going to be part of you building something for yourself. Because I think it's very clear at this stage, no company you work for is going to be loyal to you. You know, you can work there for 40 years and draw a million things for them. And when they decide, well, you know, we're merging with somebody else or laying all these people off or closing this division, again, what do you get? You know, I worked on a lot of stuff, but, you know, they're not giving me any royalties off of Samurai Jack. Although supposedly, because I wrote on a couple of those episodes, I'm supposed to get some kind of royalty, but I have to figure out some labyrinthian way where you probably get like 35 cents every time it's shown.
Right. And Sean Chai on Facebook says, and it's harder to be fired by 5,000 fans at once than one boss. And that's very true.
True. And I think that we have to think of ourselves in a very different way, because guys from my generation thought, well, you want to grow up, be like your heroes, and you want to work for Marvel, or you want to work for DC or Dark Horse or whatever you want to, and you want to work on your favorite characters. And you can still do that, but the return for it is not going to be the same. You know, even if they take your idea or something you worked on and then put it in one of those Marvel movies. So I did get some money from a character that I did with Mark Grunwald in an issue of Quasar when they made that first Captain Marvel movie. And I think I got a check for like $2,000, you know, and I got a screen credit, right? I have not received any other money since then, probably, nor will I ever see any more money. And then, so if you're creating characters that they're putting into movies and they're putting into, I think I got, you know, a similar payment for the Darkhawk figure, the toy, right? So you'll get a little something, you know, you get a little gravy for your potatoes, but you know, you're not getting anywhere. You're getting, it used to be 1 or 1.5% is what you used to get
Right.
as a royalty, right? And then of course your royalties always started after they made all their money back, and they're all, it's not from dime one. It's after they make all their money, recoup all their fees. On a comic, you would get, if you penciled and inked, I think you could get the penciler got 1.5, and I think the inker got 1. That was what the old contract was. So again, let's say you get 3%. They're getting 97%.
Right. And that is of net. That's not of gross. That is after all their Hollywood accounting. This is what you're getting. This is after they've paid their own division for the sound equipment or whatever else it is. You're getting a fraction of what they claim is the profit.
So, and as I've always said, you have no way of examining their books to say where they're rounding off, rounding up, rounding down, rounding, supposedly Star Wars for years and years and years never made a profit, right? So I think Patreons are going to sort of be, it's like direct to you, it's direct to the fan. And I think that's pretty cool, because then you really know you have a real relationship without any film between you and your supporter, because the companies are always in between you and the fan.
And that's what I did today. I actually posted before we went on earlier today that the Patreon exclusive comic book of the Middle Age, that everyone at the $10 level and above on my Patreon is getting one of these mailed to them with free shipping in the US. And then I think everyone else who's a paid supporter can order it for the cover price plus shipping. But I think it's the sort of thing where that really trying to treat that as my own subscription service. So people will get the 3D models I sculpt. They'll get the books, and just no middlemen except for, Stripe, the payment processor. And they're coming into they've gotten some flack this week for restricting just exactly who they will accept money on behalf of, and Patreon. So
what's that about? Well, how are they restricting their money?
They are. I think it's a thing where it's exactly what the credit card companies were doing a while ago, where and the Apple Store, that a lot of the app stores and mobile devices are concerned about covering transactions presumably deemed immoral. It seems like they've got some sort of morality clause. There were a bunch of posts on social media about this. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was having I don't know all the details, but it seemed to have a trickle-down effect toward Kickstarter, where Kickstarter was starting to restrict at least presentation of how their Kickstarters are being seen on the platform. So there's a whole bunch of posts on social media. People can check those out. But hopefully I'll have more details soon. So far I'm getting a lot of hot takes, and I'd like to get kind of a bit more of a reasoned understanding before I talk more about it.
So if you did something that maybe was too XXX or too violent,
yeah, I think they don't mind selling. I don't think they mind.
Because porn built the internet, so
yeah, but there are outlets for that. But it's the reason like Tumblr took a hit, because Tumblr was a space. I think it was Tumblr was a space where there was a lot of adult content, and then their app was going to be pulled off the stores because we pulled out of the App Store and the Google App Store, so they put I think an R-rated limit on everything, and then they had some sort of, before it was called AI, they had some sort of automated filter which was just striking everything that had concentric circles.
There's the chest area and there's like a circular thing.
Nothing with
there's only one.
Nothing with the Target logo, because that was too lewd. So yeah, Bullseye. He was off.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the internet is running off of people's subscriptions to pornography. So I always find that funny, because I mean that's what made PayPal and all these other platforms was the fact that they made it easy for people to pay for their naughty bits.
What? But speaking of naughty, no, that's a terrible segue. Jamar's, he's probably just screaming at his phone from wherever he is right now. Conley, you're ruining it. But you have, I think it's a blank sheet of paper.
A blank sheet of paper in front of me. The magical, fearful blank sheet of paper in front of me. And I thought, let's see, we can see it here. Good. Okay. And so I'm going to work on a drawing of Azrael, because that's what the fan wanted, is a drawing of Azrael. So you'll get to see me work the magic of my pencil.
And if I'll be monitoring chat. If anyone have any questions for Mike or questions for me, that anything we can do, or questions for Jamar, we'll answer those too. Drop them in chat, and we'll do what we can to answer them. So when you get a commission like this, Mike, do they tell you, I want him leaping off the Chrysler Building, or is it more?
Yeah, they could say that, and then I say, well, the Chrysler Building is probably going to cost you more than me drawing Azrael. I've actually drawn the Chrysler Building and the Empire State Building a couple times. There was a Captain America book I did. Captain America's children's book that I did for Disney back when they were doing the first Captain America movie. And there was this one page where it was a bunch of 19, like a P-51 and a P-40 and flying past the Empire State Building, and you're sort of looking up at it. So that was a lot of work. And then the whole thing got killed.
Do you ever get?
It was one of these things where, like, it was Disney Publishing. So I was drawing it, and then they were going to have people digitally painted somewhere, like in South America. And I worked on it, and I know Blevins worked on it, and I never saw it. I know they had a couple other people on it, and this is right after the sort of like the merger of, with the Disney culture and the Marvel culture. And even on that book, they were saying, well, we want Captain America to look like this version of Captain America. No, we want Captain America to look like the Ron Garney version of Captain America. No, we don't want to look like that. We want him to look like this other version of Captain America. And I think it's because the people at Disney Publishing really didn't know comic books.
Right.
So.
Do you ever get tired of drawing a character? Do you ever get like, okay, man, if I get one more Fantastic Fours thing, I'm gonna no more.
I would never get tired of drawing the Thing.
Okay, but maybe a bad example. But are there, like, you get like one request again and again? You go, well, let's put a hold on those for a little while.
I would say this: the drawing Azrael is not fun or easy just because his costume is so kind of ridiculous, right? Because he's got all these. This was like the height of the 90s where everybody had fringes and things like that. So you have to, like, when you're working out the figure, you're saying, okay, like, he's got his leg, and then he's got those triangle thing, those fins, flanges, whatever coming off. And then he's,
tassels. Doesn't he have like lots of streamers?
Well, he has his cape, right? He has his cape, and that's fine. But then he has like these. He has this. I don't know, almost like a cowl of his over his, like a chest plate, breastplate, right? And then he has his like rib cage thingy, which is like these almost like steel ribs. And then he has another little like curtain underneath. And then he has his belt, you know, the famous utility belt, you know. So yeah. And then so he always has these bands. That's everybody had lots of belts and pouches in the 90s. That was definitely the 90s, people with belts and pouches. So the main thing is like you got to try to rough him in. And then he's got his things on his shoulders, these big gauntlets on his arm. So he's not a clean. He's the opposite of Batman, right? Batman's very sleek, you know. This guy is not. This guy is not sleek. I don't think he could run down a block. He would snag himself on something, you know. But again, that's the magic. That's the fantasy of comics. You can come up with these like crazy, completely unrealistic characters, and then it's your job to try to make this stuff cool.
That's awesome. So let's see if we got any questions in the chat. Yeah, it doesn't look like we got a lot of folks popping in. Hello, everyone. Got a question from a comic fan who walks. Was inking the Ghost Rider work difficult? It seemed like it would be more so than others.
And now is he talking about the stuff that I posted inking over Dennis Cowan that I posted on my Facebook page? Is that what he's referring to?
I believe so. I mean, did you ever work on the published comics of him?
I worked on several issues of Ghost Rider.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The most difficult thing with drawing Ghost Rider, honestly, is drawing that chain. You know, drawing all the little links of the chain. That's a lot of work. And drawing motorcycles is a lot of work.
Right.
Right. And the weird thing is, like, I did a commission 2 years ago, I think, of Azrael fighting Ghost Rider, and I did it in a cemetery. And then you have to go, okay, I got to go look at Ghost Rider's bike, right? And it was hard because it was really hard to get a clean shot of what that bike looked like, right? So I was looking at Javier Saltieres, who I think had drawn it in the beginning, and Mark Texera, and everybody tried to cheat the hell out of drawing that bike. So that was the hardest part, is figuring out like what the engine was like, you know, all that stuff. So, but you know, inking, if the penciler is good, like Dennis, if you're inking, that's all worked out. So you just have to, it's all there, right? It's all there. Dennis worked it all out. So I just have to embellish it, you know. And the fun thing about inking Dennis's stuff is it was there, but it was also loose. His work is not, I don't know, like John Byrne or Jim Lee, where like everything is completely nailed down, super tight and finished. Right? It's there, but it's kind of loose. It's very textural. He was really looking at a lot of European artists like Sergio Topi and Dino Battaglia, and you know, I don't know, Bob P. I mean, you could see he was looking at a lot of these sort of very. I think some of the stuff looked like he was looking at Munoz. And of course, I'm a fan of all those European guys, so I knew where he was coming from, which may not have been apparent probably to 95% or better of the people reading those comics, because they're not reading European comics. So a lot of the fans were probably not aware. The other artists were. Is people like Sienkiewicz and people like that were also aware of that stuff, but there was a lot of guys who were not influenced by that stuff. Also, the late Jorge Safino, who I got to meet when he came to America the first time. So,
well, that's great. I was very late to his work, but it's mind blowing.
Yeah, well, he started apprenticing in Studio Villagrán. Ricardo and his late brother Enrique and Carlos ran a studio in Buenos Aires, which was sort of like the largest, I think, comic studio in South America. And he started working at their studio when he was like 16. So he was a pupil of Ricardo and Enrique, which you can see if you look at his work. You can see the influence of both those guys. But he really got into Sergio Topi and a lot of the European guys, because I think a lot of the South American artists were probably just as much influenced by the South America, by the European artists, as they were the American guys. And everybody was really, the Europeans were more influenced by the strip artists. They were really more influenced by the Golden Age, because there's a whole like lineage of people that came out of, especially Kniff. There's the Kniff, and then if you go to Europe, you see the sort of like the whole Hugo Pratt school, and those guys go right back to Kniff. So you had this like collision of the line Claire style, which is like Hergé and people, and then like the American styles like Kniff and Frank Robbins and Alex Raymond. And so the French and the Italians and the Spanish were really influenced, and the French too, by because that's where, if you look at Mobius's early work, and his mentor Gigi, who he worked for, totally comes out of the whole like Kniff school. You see it in the Lieutenant Blueberry stuff, especially in the beginning.
We got a question from Tia Michael. Hello. When you work with someone like Cohen or Sienkiewicz, who have such a particular, almost scratchy kind of style, do you adjust your inking to get that look?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I always liked inking for two reasons. One, because it's fun, and I get to another opportunity to make money, and then you get to work with other artists you like, right? Like if you're a fan of, like I was a huge fan of Gil Kane, so getting to ink him on Shazam really for me was like the achievement of my dream, as a kid, being able to work on somebody like Gil Kane, right? I never got to ink John Buscema, but I did get to ink Sal Buscema a little bit. I did get to ink Rich Buckler a little bit. So anytime I got to do anything like that, it was sort of like going from your fantasy football to actually, playing with the Green Bay Packers or something,
Sure. Was there a particular penciler who you felt you gelled best with? Not necessarily maybe one that like challenged you the most or one that was the easiest, but one who you thought, okay, this is the dream team. This is I make the most of this person's work.
That's interesting. I think because there's certain people that I inked a lot of. Like I inked 27 issues of The Power of Shazam. I did 2 myself in an annual, and the rest, and then there was Gil Kane, a little bit of Gil Kane in there. I even got to ink Cook Swan once for some pages, but there was a lot of Pete Krause. So when you work on a person like that for a long time, you get to adjust. I think usually what happens is you kind of influence them and they kind of influence you. There's like this meeting of the minds kind of a thing.
That's great.
And I inked a lot of Brett Blevins stuff, and a lot of my friend John Hebink stuff, because he was doing stuff for Claypool, and he's almost old high school friend. So, and I really loved inking John's stuff because he also had he draws really well, but he also has sort of a humorous bent to his stuff. So I got to, and then I inked Doll and Creature, which is a comic that he did with Rick Remender. It was a graphic novel. That was a lot of that one. So I really think I got to mesh well with John, mesh well with Brett. And, Dennis sort of adjusted his style, because you look at the pages that have those big blacks, sort of Munoz-y kind of blacks on it. That was a little bit different than what he was doing in the beginning of Deathlock. So, but to me, inking is like, if you understand what the person is doing, sometimes it's like changing the pen point. Like I would not use as much brush on Dennis. That was a pen style. It was a lot of cross-hatching, a lot of texture, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I inked Brett, depending upon, like when I inked the Betty Page job, that was a lot of brush.
That makes sense.
Very flowing, because he was doing the Betty Page thing, and there was some Dave Stevens stuff on there. That's brush inking, right?
Right.
So I would just adjust my tool to make the kind of line that I wanted. So Dennis had later on sort of a scritchy style, a pen-based style. And I think, John Romita Jr., and his stuff was sort of in between pen and some stuff with brushes. It's all the kind of texture that you want to do. And then if you're inking something, I don't know, like Superman or Batman, the animated stuff, then you're doing everything very clean.
Right.
So I just adjust my take based upon the kind of line or the vibe that I'm going for.
Is there a so you're working with the red pencil right now, and the idea, I assume you're going to ink on top of that?
Well, I'm gonna go over. I'm roughing in with the red one because I think it shows up nice online, and then you can see better than if I was using the light blue, I think.
Right, that makes perfect sense. That's great. We got a question here. Horatio Hill Pop. Any chance you could drop us a hint or a clue as to what is going on with how you ended this week's Phantom? Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I imagine you can't give spoilers, but
let's see. Well, I just turned in another week. So what's happening in the last daily that he looked at?
Horatio, if you heard that question, let us know where you left off, and we'll come back to that one.
Because some people pay and they can see like an extra week ahead.
Sure. And Mr. Paul Pate on the YouTube asks, how do you draw the chain, talking about Ghost Rider? Like, is there have you cooked up
So if you're going to draw a chain, what I would do is I would draw that, right? And then you would break it down. You draw the shape. And then once you draw the shape, then you can go in and clean it up. The most important thing, really, this relates to almost everything, is the most important thing is shape when you're drawing. Starting with the big shapes, paying attention to the shape and the rhythm, not getting caught up in the detail right away. And everybody loves detail, but I'm always like, suppress your urge to draw detail. The longer you can suppress your urge to draw detail, like you can see what I'm doing is I'm working over the whole thing, and I'm trying to feel the rhythm, and even in the rhythm of the shape, but the gesture and the rhythm, the volume, the form, and then I can put in the detail. But if I rough this out now, you see that then you can go in and again you could draw the. I mean, it's just time consuming to sit there and draw all these links.
Mr. Paul Pate says, giving us gold. Thanks. And we got a follow up on the Horatio Hellpop's question about the Phantom cliffhanger there. He said, there's an alien. So, and he, well,
you will find out whether he's really an alien or is he just a guy wearing a mask. Now, if you're a long time, so you see, that's how you would go and you would just finish the chain like that. So first you draw the path you want the chain,
That's super great. Thanks for that, Mike.
Yeah. So no, I don't think he's wearing a mask to hide his identity, but
he could be a totally different alien under there.
Right. He could be a Vulcan. You don't know. You don't see his ears. Maybe he's hiding his ears.
Horatio Hillpop follows up that with follow-up. I'd like to pay for the Phantom. Where do I cop it?
You can go to Comics Kingdom, and you can get a subscription. They offer a subscription at Comics Kingdom. If you pay for the subscription, then you get to read all their strips. I think you get to read the classic Phantom. You get to read as far back as they will go on Comics Kingdom. So you get, literally decades worth of material.
And that's an all-you-can-eat thing, right? Like it's got all the comics.
All the comics that King Features has.
Wow.
And they even have like a classic. They go all the way back to Wilson McCoy, I think.
Wow. Thanks for those questions. We also have one from Sean Chai. What's one of your favorite inking techniques for indicating different things, like story or mood? I've recently been practicing indicating light direction with line weight and have been having a lot of fun playing with that and would like to learn to do more with my inks.
Well, again, it depends upon the style, right? Because you can have a Disney style, which is just, would be like if you're doing a Disney style, where you I'm doing a very bad Mickey Mouse hand. Right. And so you have this sort of round to round to round, right? You get a lot of that. Right. Now, if you're inking something realistic, you have a light source. So let's say you had an arm, a more realistic arm.
That's great.
If the light's coming from this angle, then you would have your shading would be on this side of the arm, under the pec. You wouldn't put all the shading on that side of the arm.
Right.
Right. So in general, you have, this is an arm. Now you could just leave it like that and have a clean line, or you can say underneath the form, the bottom of the form, the line is heavier. That indicates that there's a weight. So line weight is very important. Line weight is important in a couple of ways, because line weight also indicates volume, the direction of light. Again, if you're working on like when I was working on Superman Adventures or Batman or something, there really is no rendering. So you really are just dealing with line weight. Also, line weight indicates something receding, something thinner, something bolder. So you tended to have bolder lines on things that are in the foreground, bolder lines on the figure than the background.
Yep.
I hope that answers the.
I think that's fantastic. Of all the various styles you worked on, Mike, like you're kind of have that chameleon ability, or you adapt to really well to the project you're working on. So, like your work on the adventure stuff, very different than your work on Phantom. Is there a style in there that's more you, like left to your own devices? Is there or do you always basically best fit the project you're working on? So if you decide I'm going to draw Skull Kids, that gets this style from me, and if I'm going to draw Monster Man, that gets a different style.
Yeah, I think I've always liked different styles. I mean, like I said before, when I'm drawing the Phantom, because he's a classic character, mostly known by, by Cy Berry's style, who drew it longer than anybody else and really established a real consistent look of the strip. I sort of feel like that's what I'm doing. I'm doing sort of my version of a classic adventure strip style a la, Cy Berry, right? It would sort of be like if I was going to draw Spider-Man, my Spider-Man is John Romita, maybe a little Steve Ditko, but I mean, and I love Ditko, but I'm more of in the camp of Romita because he's sort of a classic style, right? So if I was going to draw, that's what's in my head.
Right.
Like in my head is the John Romita Spider-Man, even though I love Ditko, but I don't draw like Ditko, although he's one of my favorite artists. That's one of those things, like you can have somebody that you really love. Like I love Chuck Jones. I love Chuck Jones and Maurice Noble. You can't really tell it looking at my regular
right.
But I mean, I watched that stuff literally every day as a kid, because when you would come home from school, there would be Warner Brothers cartoons.
Right.
And I'd watch them every Saturday morning, from the time that I can remember watching anything. But you would not necessarily look at my stuff and go, oh, that guy likes Chuck Jones.
Right.
But it's in there, right? The same with, I mean, there's certain, I think I always looked at it as, it's sort of like acting. If I'm doing Shakespeare, or I'm doing, I don't know, a comedy, there's going to be a difference, So I sort of do adapt to whatever I feel like I have to adapt to style-wise. When I started doing my own, self-publishing my own stuff, that's when I did the Monster Man stuff. Right? I always loved, in fact, I think I've shown it here before. I should bring it out and show it. But when I started doing my own self-publishing stuff, that's what I did. I did more like, I did Monster Man, which is similar to I had two sets of samples to get work. I had my Batman samples that nobody really gave a shit about, didn't really like. And then I had my Funny Animal samples, Tracks Rover, that everybody really liked. So right from the very beginning, I had two completely different sets of samples. And you probably would not look at either and think, oh, that's the same guy.
That's great.
So I always loved doing the Funny Animal, Bigfoot, whatever, animated style stuff right from the very beginning. So
I don't know if I've ever seen that. We got to get that up on the Patreon.
Yeah, I'll have to. There's some of it on my Instagram.
Okay. We got a question here from Tio Michael. I get confused when I'm trying to render a character crouched with a hand or arm in front of their abs or legs as far as line weight. Any tips that you can quickly share? Ways of distinguishing that kind of foreground, background in a tight space?
You're talking about drawing a character.
He says crouched with a hand / arm in front of their abs or legs as far as line weight.
The most important thing when you're drawing a figure that's crouched is compressing the torso. So you got to find the middle.
And if I misrepresented that question to you, Michael, please jump in.
Okay. So here's rib cage, the pecs. You probably almost don't see the ribs at that, just the thoracic arch there, and then you trapezius. So this is what I call drawing through. You've got to almost have like an X-ray vision. You're drawing through the forms. You're drawing one form on top of the other. So let's say if I'm going to make this Wolverine, right, and I want him to do the classic "I'm Wolverine."
And you draw through for everything, right, Mike?
It doesn't matter what I'm drawing, what kind of style I'm drawing. This would be the same way if I was drawing Bugs Bunny, and if you wanted his one arm in front. So that's if you draw the body, and then you can put the arm.
And the
Keep
question,
it loose and sculptural, right?
and
Because it's really easy if you do it this way.
And you seem to make it clear from the silhouette, almost from the silhouette alone, where everything is. It's kind of try to make it as as clear as possible.
Well, that's a good pose, right? That's a good pose, right? Is if you can tell what the pose, if you can silhouette the pose in. So you don't be afraid to draw over or draw through, or because you want to feel the mass of what you're drawing. And if you can't feel the mass of what you're drawing, then you're not really feeling the form. So I try to feel the form, right? And you keep it loose. You keep it loose. If you keep it loose, then it doesn't matter if you don't like something. Or then the other thing is, if it's loose, take your kneaded eraser and you can go over it, and it up. Right now, it's easier to go back in.
great, Mike. While that's going on, I've got a comment here. No question. It's from Trevor. No question. Just wanted to say I'm a huge, longtime fan of Draw Magazine, going all the way back to issue #1. How did those 25 years fly by?
I know. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? So just step by step by step by step by step. And again, if you don't like that, here's the most important thing. You should always be able to do that.
Erase and
erase it and redraw it. If you have to erase it and redraw it 10 times, you have to erase it and draw it 10 times. When you can do that to a drawing, then you will pass into an area where you'll be able to really learn and start to advance. Because the worst thing to do as a young artist is to go, well, I've expended so much effort on this now. I know it's not very good, but I can't erase it. It's too precious. Nothing is precious. Nothing is precious. I should be able to erase this.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can do that, when you can erase that and you can go over and start it over again, you will see your work really being able to advance. Because a lot of people get stuck. They're like, oh, that's,
yeah.
I don't want to erase that. You have to be willing to tear it down. Any of your favorite artists you can think of probably have literally a pile. I imagine Jack Kirby probably had a pile that would reach from here to the moon of drawings that he just tossed aside. Especially animators. Oh my God. Animators are, you're drawing like 50 drawings to make the arm do that.
Right.
And if this drawing and this drawing are not good, they get tossed. They do another drawing. So
I got a nice response to that, Mike. That is awesome and has really helped me get a better understanding of that process. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, it's called drawing through. You always think like this arm socket goes in here. And then his arm is inside of his thing. That weird gauntlet that he has. And so that's one of the hard things about drawing this character. Because you have to sort of break the body in the design sometimes to make the shape look right.
Right.
It's the same actually with Spider-Man. I mean, Batman is a character that requires a lot of design to make him look good at certain angles. That's all Bruce Timm's a great example of that, right? He does a great Batman. It's a very simple style, but it's hard to make something just simple because simple is design. It's like melting, boiling down. And then you look at somebody like Neil Adams, who puts, 100 times the amount of lines on his work and rendering but the design of Batman still has to work. Right. And so he does a lot of things. Same with Garcia Lopez, the same way with Jim Aparo. If you look at the way they make Batman's neck longer, they extend his torso, they tend to extend a little trick for when you're drawing a hero. If you think your hero's a little dumpy, extend the shin. If you extend the waist, you can do that a little bit. You can extend the thigh a little bit. But where you can really get it is you extend the neck a little bit and you extend the shin a little bit.
Huh.
You can keep this part of the body, because you have the 10 heads tall, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I would look at somebody, the best guy to look at that for is Alex Raymond. he is the best designer of heroic figure proportions ever. Foster drew people naturalistically. They're kind of like 6 heads tall. But Raymond came up with that way of drawing people. And he would give them very long legs.
That's great.
Right? So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 to the waist. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Dang.
That's 10 heads tall.
Dang. You know, that's Wednesday Night Gold, Mike. That's beautiful.
And I realize that, I suppose, in a way more from looking at Al Williamson's stuff, because he's a big Raymond buff, obviously. But I would look at his figure drawings. There's several books out that have a lot of Al's rough work and figure drawings and stuff. And you would see that he would draw these very long-legged people. But the body is, pretty much 4 heads or so down, right? But he would make them very long and elegant by giving it, and you can really cheat it a little bit extra from the knee down. You can make that longer.
That's great. I love that. I'm going to change how I'm going to look at all their work. We got a question from Bill O'Donnell. I see 2 questions there. I'll get to the other one a little bit, Bill. But this one, Mike, was there ever a costume design you saw and felt was overly complicated for what it was? I mean, Azrael? Jack of Hearts?
Yeah. And, George Freeman did an amazing job. I love George's stuff. But, man, I would not want to draw that costume.
Yeah, I thought it was so awesome. When I first saw it in the Handbook of the Marvel Universe, and I thought, oh, I'm going to draw that. I immediately regretted trying.
Oh, yeah, no. If you really notice, the most complicated character that Kirby ever drew was probably Galactus.
Right.
If you think about it, I mean, the Surfer is just a dude, right? The Thing is busy, but he's a little Michelin man. He's a little, right? And then you put all the cool bricks on him and everything, right? But the most complicated, I think, is probably Galactus. Maybe Odin, sitting on the throne. And if you know, I mean, Galactus is usually just standing and like blasting somebody or saying something, right? The most complicated, because Darkseid is very basic.
That's fantastic. Bill says, you're at a con. Which are you drawing, Galactus or Jack of Hearts?
Wow. I don't know. Jack of Hearts in the middle of a mine where the lights have been blown out.
On Ghost Rider's motorcycle.
God. Well, again, everything. The thing is you can draw anything if you can work with the basic shapes. Because you see how I started with basic shapes. If you can start with the basic shapes, you can draw anything more complicated, because it's just drawing more shapes into the basic shape, right? Like I think Ghost Rider's motorcycle, right? There's the fork of a motorcycle, right? And there's the engine. So there's some kind of chassis thing, holds the engine, drives back. There's a wheel, right? And then there's a fork, and then there's the fork, and then there's the wheel here, and then he's got that crazy windshield thing like that, right? And then it's very low. In fact, yeah, because I think the wheels go out further like that, right? So if you can figure that out, because that's what I had to do. I had to kind of sketch it a bunch of times like that to kind of figure out what are the shapes.
That's great.
You know,
That's really great.
you know, when I draw something, it has to. I literally feel that in my head. Like it's like I have a pair of hands in my head, and I can feel this shape, like a virtual hand in a VR thing in my head, feeling the shape, feeling that, you know, feeling this, and then the arm comes out of that, right?
That's great. We got a question here from Leon Fan 2099. I recently picked up some Manly merch, one in particular of a black and white drawing of a young lady walking through the forest with a tiger. Is this from something? You know, remember that piece, Mike?
Yes. So what he got a merch off of my TeePublic store?
I'm not sure, but it was the young lady walking through the forest with a tiger. Was that from a project, from a story?
That was just something that I did one night after I was done drawing. It just was an image in my head. I just had that image in my head. You know, like if I were to just sit here and scribble around, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll do what they would call automatic drawing. So you take your sheet of paper, and you just start doing this.
That's great.
And once you do that, then you just kind of look at it and you see, well, what do I see in here? What image is popping out? And I could say, well, I see
JAMAR NICHOLAS.
I could say I see JAMAR NICHOLAS. Oh, what do I see here? Oh no.
Oh, bucket hat.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah, bucket hat.
Amazing.
Right? I see a bucket hat.
We got another nice comment here. Deckard 2019. Mike, I cherish the issue of Draw Magazine with the Glenn Orbick article. Gold mine of information.
Oh, Glenn was so, first of all, he was so gracious to do that. And you know, one of the things about doing that magazine, I was very particular about the people I put in the magazine. I really curated it because I wanted people like Glenn, who number one was a fantastic artist, but was also really good at explaining his process and could demonstrate his process. Because there's a lot of people that are really great artists, but they can't really tell you how they did it. Right. And then he had, you know, being an illustrator, he had all those steps. Here's my sketch. Here's my, you know, my rough. Here's my photographs. Here's my roughing of my painting, and then the steps. And I love that because even on the cover, you got to see his rough, and then you got to see the finished painting. So yeah, that was a favorite issue of mine because. And he unfortunately passed away not too long after that. But yeah, he was great, and he taught a lot of people. And then I think his teacher was a guy by the name of Fred Fixler, who taught at the Calabasas School, and I think he was a student of Ken Riley, who was a famous illustrator, who was a student of, there's a certain lineage, so you could go from Glenn to his teacher, to Ken Riley, to basically Dean Cornwell and Harvey Dunn. And from them, you go back to Howard Pyle. So you literally had schools of illustration in America. You had the Chicago school and the sort of like the New York school. And if you go back to, Pyle or, like the Leyendecker brothers studied in France. So you can sort of trace the lineages. A lot of them go back to the French Academy. And out of the French Academy came a lot of the people that taught people like George Bridgman, who taught Norman Rockwell. So I always found that it was really interesting. If you like an artist, a great way to learn about that artist is to learn the people that artist liked.
Right.
So I was very, very into all that. Who I would call the who begat who.
Sure.
Right? Like if you like Frank Frazetta, well, then you end up going back to Harold Foster. And even Milton Caniff, because when he was a kid, he loved Milton Caniff.
Sure.
And if you like that, you worked on that book with the Frazetta family, right?
Uh-huh.
So when he was a kid, you would never think he would be drawing Conan by looking at the snowman and that other stuff. So he had that whole Bigfoot style, right, in the beginning, which sort of merged when he was doing Little Abner. You have that book?
I got the book. I thought I even did a sculpt of Snowman. I don't know what I did with it because I just as a lark I decided. But we're going to be wrapping up. We're going to start putting the landing gear down. I just want to get one more question out. We have one here from Bill O'Donnell's asking me about my conventions. Question for Stone Cold: are you coming back to Baltimore or Heroes Con this year? Yes and yes. I spoke with Heroes Con and Carla there, and apparently I'll be on the next list of guests they announce. So I'm excited to be back in Heroes Con. It's been too long. Actually, I was there last year, but it still feels like it's been too long. The way time is both screaming past us and also feels like forever.
I feel I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I really feel that COVID really screwed things up because you had the COVID thing, and that sort of like really diluted time because you had what was before COVID, and you had post COVID. But honestly, for me and a lot of people I know, I think also the fact that you had Trump, Biden, then Trump. So it's like we keep going over the same thing, So I think we've never had that where we had one president, another president, and then going back to have the same president.
Yeah.
Right. So that also, and then that was on top of COVID. So it's like the timeline is really weird because I posted on my Facebook, I graduated from my undergrad 14 years ago. Right. And I started in 2007. So between 2007 and then 2012, when I graduated, because I did part-time and then I did full-time. That seems like such a completely different world, a completely different, even though that was post 9/11.
Right.
It seemed like a completely different world. And then I graduated from my master's in 2014. That's 12 years ago. And that seems like a different world. So I think everybody's in the time warp. But yeah. So.
Oh, Mike, that's awesome. So when you're working on at this stage, how do you plan out what's next?
Well, what I'll probably do is go through what I'm doing now, and I'll go through and I'll tighten it up like this. And then I'll only need it to get so tight before I can start to ink it.
That's fantastic. And will you be sharing this on the Patreon?
Yes, of course I will be sharing it on my socials when I am done. But like, see, yeah, like these gauntlets are really complicated. And so I have to look at the photo because I don't remember how to draw it. So I have to go back and look at the, I remember this part, but like there's all these little things up in here. And so I have to really sort of pay attention to that. But I'll get this to a point where it's kind of like this. And then, maybe I will slightly, put a little shading on it,
That's great.
and then I'll ink it. I'm at the point now where, I could pencil this like nail tight, but I try to pencil it to the point that I can do a lot of the drawing when I ink it. And that keeps a little bit more energy in it for me.
That's great. That's great. Well, Mike, I have to say it. I got to say it. I want to say, well, not for you, but everyone else, pencils down. I know you got more to do on that. But I thought that was a fantastic episode. Wonderful questions, everybody. I've never seen Mike get slowed down by anything, but really good questions. I think will do it. But I love that. I love the chain. I love my takeaway is extend the shin.
Extend the shin. Go look at it. There's I know we all complain about Facebook, but Facebook does have several really great groups. There's an Alex Raymond group for every great classic illustrator, especially people like Alex Raymond and Milton Caniff, and I'm a really, really firm believer in studying the classics because everything that we are doing now comes from that. Right. And if you can go back and you can look at the first 10 years of the comic strips, you look at what Foster was doing Tarzan, you look at what Caniff was doing on Tearing the Pirates, right? You look at the evolution of Alex Raymond from when he started on Flash Gordon to when he went all the way through doing Rip Kirby. If you study that stuff, I'm not even saying that you have to draw like that, but you learn stuff by studying the evolution of an artist and seeing, oh, I can see what they're doing now. I can see how they're moving along. There's something from that you'll be able to take and you'll be able to apply to your work in your own way. And that's why we all have our favorite artists. You have favorite artists of the past and probably favorite modern artists, but I always think go back. It's really interesting if you go to an old bookstore and you can find old art director annuals from the turn of from the early part of the last century. You look at stuff now that the sort of the flat style that everybody's doing. That's very good. You can see people doing stuff like that 100 years ago.
It's great.
100 years ago, and you may find something looking at some of that old stuff that'll be a revolution to your process. And I think it's because it's pure. It's pure. You can look at someone like Dennis was looking at, like Jose Munoz, when he was doing that Deathlock stuff, right? So you can look at Jose Munoz and go, well, this is pretty cool. And then you can look at the guy that influenced Jose Munoz, right? You can look at somebody, the first guy to do that, the first artist to do that style. And I think that to me, that's always the way. Strip it back, all the way back. Study the stuff that's pure, because then you go like, I see why they're doing that. I can see how they developed that. You might have what I call an aha moment for your art when you do stuff like that.
Fantastic. Mike, you're the best. Thank you everybody for being here. I say this all the time. We have the best audience in the business. Thank you all. Jamar, you are missed. I'm sure you're watching this in space. Okay, I've said too much.
Watching this in some secret location.
But Mike, I think we would be remiss if we didn't.
Well, before we remiss, again, please support our Patreon.
Yeah. Oh yes, please do.
Please go support Steve Rude.
Yes, and you
his Patreon, his Thune World is ending tomorrow. Chip us $1. Subscribe. Tell your friends. Spread the. If you enjoyed this, you want to see more of this, we're happy to do more of this. But I would appreciate you guys. Again, it's only $3. You can't even buy a Wawa hot dog for $3. You can't even buy a Jimmy John's. You can't even buy your own local John for $3. So you can support this Art John, as Jamar would say, for $3.
Yeah, it's a value, Mike. And check out that URL below there. It's patreon.com/ it's easy to remember. Simple mnemonic. U133254443. It just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, exactly.
But do check it out. And thanks for everyone who signed up this evening. That's fantastic. We appreciate you so much. And wonderful questions. And is it time to prepare for these end times and Dr. Paulie Walnuts, Mike?
AT. Quasimodo predicted all of this.
Fantastic. All right, everybody out there, wash them Kirby hands.
Oh yeah, and then go to Kirby Street and then come back and wash your Kirby hands after you go to Kirby Street.
Yeah.
Kirby way.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh, we'll talk about that with Jamar next week. Thanks, everybody.
Night.